Listen closely, my friends. Something happened to you. Maybe years ago, maybe last week, maybe this morning when you looked in the mirror and could not quite meet your own eyes, and you told yourself the same thing you always tell yourself. I'll fix this. I'll change. Things will be different. But here's what nobody ever tells you. The problem is not your discipline. It is not your intelligence. It is not even your circumstances. The problem is something far more ancient, far more invisible, and far more dangerous. Your mind is at war with itself, and most people, most intelligent, capable, driven people, are losing that war every single day without ever knowing a battle is being fought. In 167 AD, a man sat inside a military tent on the frozen banks of the Danube River. Around him, men were dying of plague. His empire was fracturing from within. Barbarian armies pressed against every border. He had lost 3 of his children. His closest advisors had betrayed him. And this man, the most powerful individual on the face of the earth, picked up a small notebook and wrote these words to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the last of the 5 good emperors, and what he was describing in the cold, in the dark, surrounded by death, was not inspiration. It was a technology, a ruthlessly precise, battle-tested technology for building a mind that refuses to break. That technology is what we are building today, not positive thinking, not surface-level motivation, not the kind of feel-good content that evaporates the moment real life hits you. We are talking about the 10 habits, drawn from 2,000 years of Stoic philosophy, from the darkest moments in human history, and from the cutting edge of modern neuroscience, that separate the men who get flattened by life from the men who use life as a forge. Stay with me, because the next few minutes could be the most important you spend this year. And if you have never subscribed to this channel, do it right now. Because we do not do motivation here. We do architecture, mental architecture, and once you understand how to build it, no one can ever take it from you. Habit 1. Win the first hour or surrender the entire day. Let me ask you something. What is the very first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, before you are fully conscious, before your defenses are up, before you have made a single deliberate choice? Most people reach for their phone immediately, within seconds of opening their eyes, and what enters their mind in that moment is not their own thoughts. It is everyone else's urgency, everyone else's opinion, everyone else's curated version of a life they are supposed to want. And then they spend the rest of the day wondering why they feel reactive, why they feel scattered, why despite every intention they cannot seem to get ahead of their own life. Here is what the neuroscience shows. In the first 15 to 30 minutes after waking, the brain is still cycling in theta wave states, the same brain state as deep meditation, the same state that makes the mind maximally receptive and maximally vulnerable to influence. What enters your mind in those minutes does not just enter. It sets the filter through which you perceive everything that follows. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years before brain imaging existed. Every morning, without exception, he sat with his own mind before the world could get to it. He wrote, he questioned, he reminded himself what kind of man he intended to be that day, not what he intended to accomplish, who he intended to be. That is a crucial distinction. Epictetus, born into slavery, owned by a man who broke his leg for sport, wrote this: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The first hour is where the first of those two things happens. Govern it with absolute discipline. No phone for the first hour, no news, no social media, No other person's noise, just silence or deliberate input, a page of philosophy, a journal entry, 5 minutes of stillness in which you remember what you actually value before the world tells you what to value. This single habit, practiced without exception over 90 days, will fundamentally rewire the baseline state from which you face every challenge. Not because mornings are magic, because the mind that is governed creates a different day than the mind that is managed by the environment around it. Win the first hour, every day, without negotiation. Habit 2. See reality with ruthless precision, not comforting stories. I want to tell you about a distinction that will change the way you experience every single difficulty in your life. It is the difference between what happened and what you decided it means. These are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing, but your mind treats them as identical, and that confusion is costing you more than you know. The Stoics had a word for the raw impression that reality sends to your mind: fantasia. The appearance, the image, before interpretation, before emotion. Before the story, your history, your fear, your ego immediately begins to construct. When something bad happens, the impression arrives first. Then, milliseconds later, the mind layers meaning onto it. This is humiliation. This is failure. This is proof that I am not enough. This is the beginning of the end. And here is what Marcus Aurelius trained himself to do, and what took him years of daily practice to master. He learned to pause at the impression, to hold it before the meaning was attached, to look at it bare and ask, what is this actually? Not, what does it feel like? What is it, stripped of all my fear about it? Viktor Frankl arrived in Auschwitz in 1944. Within hours of arrival, the Nazis had taken everything from him: his clothes, his manuscript, his wedding ring, his name, replaced by a number tattooed on his arm, his wife, everything. And in that darkness, Frankl discovered something that would become one of the most cited psychological insights of the 20th century. He found the gap, the space between what happens to a man and how a man responds. And he wrote, "The last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That is not optimism, that is precision. Seeing the situation for what it actually is, not for what your worst fears tell you it means. The habit is this: the next time something hits you, do not react, do not suppress. Simply pause for 10 seconds and ask one question: what is actually true here, separate from my interpretation of it? What is the bare fact? Strip the catastrophe from the event. What is left? Almost always what is left is a problem, and problems, unlike catastrophes, have solutions. Train the eye to see clearly, and you will never again be ambushed by your own mind. Habit 3. Build a philosophy solid enough to stand on when everything else collapses. On September 9, 1965, United States Navy Commander James Stockdale was flying a combat mission over North Vietnam when his plane was struck and went down. As he ejected, tumbling toward enemy territory, he had a single coherent thought. He said to himself, "I am leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus." He spent 7.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton, tortured over 20 times, kept in isolation, denied medical treatment for a broken shoulder, given no release date, no certainty of survival, no contact with his family for years at a time. And not only did he survive, he led. He organized a secret resistance structure among the prisoners that held together through conditions specifically designed to shatter human will. When he was finally released and walked home, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. How? What did he have? The journalist Jim Collins asked him that question years later. Stockdale answered without hesitation. He said, I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted that I would prevail in the end. But I also never confused that faith with the need to confront the brutal facts of my current reality. He had a philosophy, not a mood, not a mantra. A structured, tested, internally consistent philosophy about what is within a man's control and what is not. And that philosophy did not bend under 7 years of systematic torture. Here is the question that most people cannot answer. What do you actually believe? Not what you would say you believe at a dinner table, but what you believe when there is no one watching, when you are alone in the dark, when the thing you most feared has actually happened. Most people do not have an answer, because most people have never built one. They have opinions, they have preferences, they have inspirational quotes saved on their phone, but they do not have a philosophy, a set of principles so deeply internalized that it functions automatically under pressure. The habit is to build that philosophy deliberately. Read the Stoics, not once, but repeatedly, until the ideas stop being intellectual and start being operational. Write your core principles. Test them against real events in your life. Argue with them. Sharpen them. Because the day will come when life stops asking what you think and starts asking what you actually are made of. On that day, the only thing standing between you and collapse is what you built when you did not have to. Habit 4. Stop running from adversity and learn to mine it. Seneca wrote from his villa. That is true. He had wealth, influence, comfort. Critics have used that against him for 2,000 years. But here is what those critics ignore. Seneca was banished from Rome by the Emperor Caligula on pain of death. He watched his closest friends executed under Nero, the emperor he served and counseled. He lost children. He faced his own forced suicide with the composure of a man who had long since made peace with the possibility. He did not write about adversity as a philosopher in an armchair. He wrote about it as a man who had navigated genuine darkness. And his central teaching, the one he returned to constantly, was this: every adversity carries within it the seed of an equivalent benefit, not a consolation, not a silver lining. A seed, something real and generative that would not exist without the wound. Modern psychology now has a name and an entire body of research for this phenomenon. It is called post-traumatic growth. Researchers Tedeschi and Calhoun at the University of North Carolina spent decades studying survivors of severe trauma, accidents, illness, loss, violence. And what they found was that a significant majority of those survivors reported positive changes that would not have occurred without the crisis. Greater sense of personal strength, deeper relationships, more authentic life priorities, a clearer understanding of what actually matters, not despite the difficulty, because of how they metabolized it. The operative word is metabolized, because the growth does not come from suffering alone. Suffering alone just creates damage. The growth comes from the disciplined, honest interrogation of the suffering, from asking, what did this strip away that was holding me back? What did this reveal about my own capacity that comfort never would have shown me? What has this loss forced me to build that I would never have built by choice? The habit is to build a practice around this interrogation. After every significant setback, not immediately, give yourself time to feel it. Sit down and write 3 things: what this cost me, what this taught me, and what it has now made possible that was not possible before. Do this consistently and watch something shift. Watch the relationship between you and difficulty change from one of dread to one of vigilant curiosity. Because the man who believes every obstacle contains a gift is, in a very literal sense, impossible to defeat. You cannot beat someone who grows stronger every time you hit them. Habit 5. Become the observer of your own mind, not its servant. There is a voice in your head right now. It is commenting on this. It is judging, labeling, agreeing, resisting. It has been running continuously since you were old enough to form thoughts. And here is the uncomfortable truth most people never confront. You have likely never once questioned whether that voice is telling you the truth. Research from the National Science Foundation suggests the average person has somewhere between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. Studies indicate a large majority of those thoughts are negative in tone, and an even larger portion are simply repetitions of the thoughts from the day before, the same loops, the same fears, the same quiet, relentless self-diminishment playing on repeat. This is not a character flaw, it is a feature of an unmanaged mind operating in autopilot. The brain's default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you are not deliberately focused, tends to bias toward threat detection, social comparison, and rumination. This kept your ancestors alive on the savannah. In the modern world, it is quietly dismantling your potential. Zeno of Citium lost everything in a shipwreck. His entire cargo, his livelihood, gone in one storm in the Aegean Sea. He arrived in Athens destitute and directionless. He wandered into a bookshop and picked up an account of Socrates, and something shifted. Not his circumstances, his relationship to his own mind. He spent the rest of his life building the philosophy of Stoicism, teaching students in the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, that the path to freedom ran directly through the mastery of one's own inner speech. The Stoics called the practice prosos, self-attention, the continuous, disciplined, non-judgmental observation of your own thought. Not suppression, not argument, observation. Watching the mind the way a scientist watches a reaction. Curious, detached, precise. Here is what changes when you develop this habit. The voice does not disappear, but it loses its authority. You begin to see the gap between the thought and the fact. You notice the pattern. This is the voice that always catastrophizes. This is the voice that compares. This is the voice that says, "I can't," before I have tried. And in seeing the pattern, you step outside it. You are no longer the thought. You are the one watching the thought. And the one watching is never as frightened as the one thinking. The habit is simple in description and demanding in practice. Throughout the day, pause 3 times and simply ask, what is my mind doing right now? Not to fix it, just to see it. Because you cannot govern what you have not first observed. Habit 6. Release what you cannot control with the same force you apply to what you can. There is a single idea in the entire canon of Stoic philosophy that, if genuinely understood, not intellectually but viscerally in the bones, would end more human suffering than any medication, any therapy, any self-help system ever devised. Epictetus called it the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, some things are not. And the entire discipline of Stoic practice is, at its foundation, an ongoing, ruthless sorting of everything in your life into one of those 2 categories. What is up to us? Our judgments, our desires, our responses, the direction of our effort, our character, the words we choose, the quality of attention we bring to this moment. What is not up to us? Other people's opinions, the economy, the behavior of those we love, our health, the past, the eventual outcome of every effort we make. Here is the thing. Most of human anxiety, genuine, clinical, debilitating anxiety, is generated by spending psychological energy on things in the second category as though they were in the first. You cannot control what your boss thinks of you. You cannot control whether the business succeeds in the next quarter. You cannot control whether the person you love chooses to stay. But the mind treats all of these things as controllable. It believes that if it worries hard enough, thinks long enough, runs the scenarios enough times, it can somehow influence outcomes that are structurally beyond its reach. And in that belief, it burns itself out on a fire that can never be put out. Epictetus was explicit. He said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." That is not passivity. That is radical redirection. Every joule of energy pulled from the uncontrollable and redirected toward the controllable compounds into genuine power. The habit is to build what the Stoics called an internal locus of control, but to do it honestly, not just as a philosophy you subscribe to, but as a daily audit. Take one anxiety per day and ask, what part of this is actually within my control? Then direct every unit of energy you have toward that part. Abandon the rest, not with resignation, with the kind of precision that comes from knowing where your power lives and refusing to waste it anywhere else. The man who does this consistently does not become passive. He becomes ferociously effective, because every move he makes is a move he can actually make. Habit 7. Choose discomfort deliberately before life chooses it for you. Seneca wrote something that has stayed with me longer than almost any other line in philosophy. He wrote, "Set aside certain days on which you will be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with rough and coarse clothing, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" He was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He ate like a senator. He dressed accordingly, and yet he periodically chose to live for days like a slave. Not because he had to, because he wanted to test whether his comfort had become a cage. This practice had a specific name, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity, the voluntary, deliberate rehearsal of difficulty. The Stoics did not avoid imagining bad outcomes. They pursued those imaginings systematically, precisely to drain them of their power. Here is what happens physiologically when you do this. The prefrontal cortex, the rational, planning part of your brain, begins to build what neuroscientists call fear extinction pathways. Every time you voluntarily enter mild discomfort and survive it intact, the brain recalibrates its threat assessment. The amygdala, your alarm system, becomes less trigger-happy. Your baseline of what constitutes a genuine threat rises, and your confidence in your own capacity to handle difficulty rises with it. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile in May of 1954. Before him, not one runner in recorded history had done it. Physicians argued it was physically impossible. The human body, they said, could not sustain the required pace without catastrophic cardiovascular collapse. Bannister did not train only his legs. He trained his pain threshold. He trained his relationship to suffering. He built a practice of entering the edge of what was bearable and pushing slightly past it, every single week for years. So that on race day in Oxford, when everything in him screamed to slow down, the part of him that had done this 1,000 times in training was louder. He crossed the line at 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. The impossibility was broken. And within a year, 1 year, 16 other runners broke the same barrier. Because what Bannister had proven was not a physical fact. It was a psychological one. The wall had never been in the body, it had been in the mind. The habit: choose one voluntary discomfort every single day. Cold shower, fast until noon. 1 hour of difficult, focused work before you check anything. Say the honest thing in a conversation where the comfortable thing would be easier. It does not matter which discomfort you choose. What matters is the daily practice of choosing it, of proving to yourself repeatedly that you are capable of more than your comfort would suggest. The man who does this cannot be controlled by the threat of discomfort, and that, in a world designed to sell you ease, is a kind of freedom almost no one possesses. Habit 8. Build your identity on what you do, not on how you feel. Here is perhaps the most dangerous idea that contemporary culture has handed to young men. Act when you feel inspired. Follow your passion. Trust your emotions as a guide. Wait until you feel ready. And here is why that idea is quietly destroying people. Feelings are weather. They shift daily, hourly, without reason. They contradict each other. They are shaped by sleep, by blood sugar, by the last conversation you had, by a memory that surfaced from 17 years ago without warning. Building a life on the foundation of feelings is building a house on sand. Cato the Younger understood something that most men in Rome, men with far more comfort and far more safety than he had, did not. He understood that who you are is not revealed in the moments of inspiration. It is revealed in the moments of invisibility, when no one is watching, when the right thing is also the hard thing, when everything in you wants to choose differently. Cato walked barefoot through Rome, not as an affectation, but as a practice of refusing to let reputation become more important than character. He turned down fortunes, refused political alliances, and when Caesar's power became irresistible to everyone else in Rome, Cato chose death over compromise, not because he was indifferent to life, because his identity was not negotiable, not even at that price. Research in behavioral psychology consistently shows that identity-based commitment dramatically outperforms motivation-based commitment. When a person frames their actions as an expression of who they are, I am someone who does not quit. I am someone who keeps his word. I am someone who shows up regardless. They maintain that behavior far more consistently than when they rely on motivation, accountability systems, or emotional states. Because motivation asks, do I feel like doing this? Identity asks, is this who I am? And identity, properly anchored, does not fluctuate with mood. The habit is to write, clearly and specifically, the 3 or 4 identity statements that define the kind of man you are building. Not aspirational, declarative. I am someone who honors his commitments. I am someone who does the work even when the result is uncertain. I am someone who tells the truth even when silence is safer. Then, every single day, find one moment where you can act in alignment with those statements when the easier option is available. That is where identity is actually forged. Not in the easy moments, not in the moments of inspiration. In the moments where you could have chosen differently and did not. Habit 9. Forge a purpose. Specific enough to demand everything and vague enough to adapt to nothing. There is a reason the Stoics spoke of telos, the ultimate aim, the direction your whole life is pointing. And there is a reason they considered a life without it not just suboptimal, but fundamentally irrational. A life without a telos is not a life, it is a drift. And a drifting mind, they understood, is a mind that will be filled by whatever the environment places in it. Viktor Frankl lost his entire family in the Holocaust. His father died of pneumonia in the camps. His mother and brother were killed in the gas chambers at Auschwitz. His wife, Tilly, died in Bergen-Belsen. He had nothing. He was a number tattooed on his forearm. And in that darkness, in those conditions designed specifically to strip a human being of every reason to continue, he found his. He decided that if he survived, he would write about what he had witnessed and what he had discovered. He would articulate the psychological mechanism by which meaning sustains life in conditions that logic says are unsurvivable. He mentally reconstructed his destroyed manuscript, page by page, in his mind in the dead of winter. That purpose did not make the hunger go away. It did not warm the barracks. It did not bring back the people he had lost. It did something more important. It made the suffering mean something. And meaning, Frankl discovered, is what the human mind requires not just to flourish, but to survive. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But the why has to be real. It cannot be performance. It cannot be what looks impressive on a platform, or what would make your parents comfortable, or what the algorithm rewards. It has to be the thing that would pull you out of bed on the worst morning of your life, because it matters more than the suffering of facing it. The habit is an exercise that most people avoid because it is more confrontational than it appears. Sit down alone, no phone, no music, no distraction, and write the answer to this question. At the end of my life, what would I regret not having built, not having said, not having become? Not what you wish you had, what you would regret. Because regret is the most honest signal your deepest self knows how to send. Find that answer. Then let every single day be a deliberate movement toward it, or a deliberate removal of what is pulling you away from it. Because a life organized around genuine purpose does not drift. It compresses, it focuses, and a focused life, even an imperfect, stumbling, difficult one, is a life that cannot be taken apart. Habit 10. Live every day inside the awareness that you will die, and let that awareness make you dangerous. This is the one that most people skip, because it is uncomfortable, because the mind recoils from it, because we have built an entire culture around the management and suppression of the awareness of death. But the Stoics considered this the master practice, the one that makes all the others possible. They called it melite thanatou, the meditation on death. And they were explicit. This is not morbid. This is the single most clarifying lens through which to see your own life. Marcus Aurelius returns to this again and again in the Meditations. He writes about the emperors before him, Augustus, Hadrian, Antoninus, men who believed their power was permanent, their legacies immovable. And he notes, all gone, every one of them, reduced to a handful of historians who may or may not have gotten the facts right. He did not write this in despair. He wrote it to see clearly, to ask if all of this is temporary, the power, the reputation, the comfort, the fear, what remains worth protecting? What remains worth building? What remains worth sacrificing everything for? Researchers at the University of Missouri found that people who regularly engaged with what they called mortality salience, a direct conscious awareness of their own eventual death, consistently made more authentic choices, maintained deeper relationships, prioritized more clearly, and reported significantly higher levels of life satisfaction than those who avoided the subject. Think about what that means. The people who looked most honestly at the fact of their own death lived better, because they stopped wasting time on things that did not matter to them. They stopped performing for audiences whose approval they did not actually need. They stopped postponing the life they actually wanted to be living. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The habit is to ask one question each morning or each evening, whichever is more honest for you, and to ask it without softening it. If this were the last year of my life, would I still be spending energy on this particular fear, on this resentment, on this hesitation, on this performance for people whose opinion does not actually determine my worth? And when the answer is no, release it. Not someday, today. Not when it feels easier, now. Because time has no backup. There is no accumulation of unlived days that gets returned to you at the end. There is only what you did with what you had. The man who carries this awareness daily does not procrastinate his life. He lives it, imperfectly, urgently, fully, because he knows with absolute clarity that the window is finite. And that knowledge does not paralyze him. It frees him, it makes him dangerous, because he has nothing to protect, nothing to postpone, and nothing to prove to anyone who has not earned the right to matter to him. The unbreakable mind is not a gift. It is not a personality type. It is not something you are born with or not born with. It is a construction, a deliberate, daily, disciplined construction of a specific set of habits. Marcus Aurelius spent decades building his. He did not start as the philosopher emperor. He started as a boy with good instincts and a Stoic tutor named Rusticus, who handed him a copy of Epictetus's lectures. And he built from there, one morning at a time, one journal entry at a time, one difficult decision at a time. Stockdale did not survive the Hanoi Hilton on willpower. He survived on philosophy, on a structure of thought so deeply internalized that even 7 years of systematic torture could not reach its foundation. Frankl did not find meaning in Auschwitz by accident. He found it because he had trained himself, through years of psychological practice and philosophical inquiry, to ask the right questions even when every human instinct was screaming that no right answers existed. What these men had in common was not talent. It was not a favorable hand. It was the willingness to take responsibility for the construction of their own inner world, and then do that work relentlessly long before they needed it. That is available to you, not someday, not after circumstances improve, not after you feel ready, because that feeling will not arrive on its own. It arrives as a consequence of the work, not as a prerequisite for it. Start with the first hour of tomorrow morning. Own it before the world claims it. Then move to one habit at a time, not all 10 at once, because that is a recipe for nothing changing, but one practiced without exception until it is structural, until it is not something you do, but something you are. The Stoics believed philosophy was not a subject you studied, it was a life you built, brick by brick, in the invisible moments, in the decisions no one else would ever know you made. It was the ongoing, daily, uncelebrated work of becoming someone whose mind could not be broken. That work is yours. It has always been yours. The only question is whether you begin it today or hand another day to the version of yourself that has not yet decided to. Decide right now. Because this moment, this exact moment, is the only one you can actually act in. Everything else is either memory or imagination.